Hey guys, I want to welcome you to the weekly Wednesday for the Financial Freedom newsletter, where every week, every Wednesday, we delve into something inspirational, motivational, something excerpt taken from the Financial Freedom weekly newsletter. Wherever you are, if you're listening on Spotify, on iTunes, Google, be sure to click the like, subscribe, share, comment. And without ado, let's get into the show. Hey guys, welcome to this week's podcast episode for the Financial Freedom Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Christopher Liu. As you know, I'm always in the field of getting experts that have tremendous insights, experience, wisdom, sharing those insights and wisdom to you. So today we have Bruce Shear, and he is author, Inspire Your Buyers, Go to Market with a Story That Sizzles. And he's going to be talking to the audience about how to create a story, how to create a market for that story, and how to sell to them. So whether you're a physician out there, a business owner, practice owner, employee, it's got something for everyone. So I'll welcome Bruce to the show. Welcome.
Hey, thank you, Christopher. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I know we had connected through Podmatch, and tell the audience about your story, how you got started, and we'll go from there.
Oh, sounds good, Christopher. Yeah, so one of the reasons I wanted to reach out to you and you know to have this opportunity to share with your audience is I've recently crafted a book, and well, I should say recently gone to market with it. It was 2 years in the making. I started it in the pandemic, and you know, lots of blood, sweat, and tears to try to encapsulate about 25 years of experience. So it took a couple of years, but it's now hot off the press on Amazon, et cetera. But it's called Inspire Your Buyers, Go to Market with a Story That Sizzles. And just, you know, a little bit of a backstory about the book and why I created that. You know, what I've witnessed in helping business owners and you know, even very, very large organizations, think Hewlett Packard, Microsoft, Adobe, et cetera, big brand names that you've probably heard before. You know, I've specialized in helping them go to market with stories that sizzle. So what that means is, you know, a go-to-market story that sizzles, that's a story that marketing can tell, that sellers can use. It's compelling, it's consistently used across all the different parties, and it's catalyzing. It's really designed to help someone change. And so I put together, you know, encapsulated a lot of wisdom around that. But how can we tell a story that's compelling, that's consistent, and catalyzing someone for change? That's what it's all about.
Yeah, I love that. And so, you know, a couple of ideas to start us off, because I like to go from big idea to the nitty, especially when we're talking about business owners. The market's saturated, people's attentions are fragmented. So how do you go to stand apart in a crowded market with Inspire Your Buyers?
Yeah, that's why it's so critical. And that's why this book is just so incredibly timely as well, Christopher. You know, pretty much all markets are undergoing change right now. I'm sure we've all been experiencing bouts of AI anxiety and everything else. But, you know, gosh, the customers that I serve, they typically have just a proliferation of competition. So how do you go to market? How do you inspire, again, you know, to catalyze that buyer wanting to change and change with you? You know, it's imperative to stand apart. And that's why I created the book, just to help people do so. And with a story that sizzles. And if I could, just for a minute, talk about the word sizzles. What does that mean? You know, when you're in a restaurant, everybody's kind of sitting there, you know, when that plate of fajitas comes out, and the person receiving the fajitas typically gets pretty excited. And lately I've been looking at, you know, sizzling brownies and ice cream. You know, when somebody gets a dish like that, it's special. It's awesome. It lifts the spirit. That's what I'm trying to do in helping, you know, my clients and people that read the book to, really craft a story that hits the mark. It sizzles. It is different. It helps you stand apart. It helps you and the buyer really move forward, and change, together.
Yeah, I love that. I love hearing adjective words, very powerful word, sizzles, standing apart. Yeah, and we can actually go through so many different things. So we can talk about how to optimize your revenue team with a go-to market story that sizzles, and also having sales conversations that sizzle. So elaborate on that.
Oh, absolutely. I can elaborate through, perhaps just a little bit of story, but first and foremost, when you have a compelling go-to-market story, it really embodies 5 key elements that make that up. But once you've got it in place, what happens, what I've witnessed is the revenue team gets really excited. Right now, like you said, it's a tough market out there. Competition is everywhere. There's a need to stand apart. And when the revenue team doesn't, and that's the marketers, the sellers that are part of that revenue team, I'll tell you, that can just suck the wind out of the culture and take the wind right out of the sail. Think of a sailboat just sitting out there and not moving forward. It's a total bummer. But when you get a story that sizzles in place, the confidence goes up, the enthusiasm goes up. And funny enough, emotionally, the fun goes up. You're having a better time as part of the overall culture because you've got a story that's hitting the mark. And as a result of that, more customers are coming on board. You're keeping more customers and revenue rises, and everybody benefits when that's the case. When you don't have a story that sizzles, or sometimes Christopher, I come across organizations that are devoid of story. They don't really have one. It's kind of random. That's a tough place to be in. And very often those companies don't really make it. They kind of were there and then they're not there anymore. And I don't know if you've looked at the average lifespan of an organization, but it's shrinking a bit, because this is a discipline that needs to be happening. But when it goes right, everybody wins. Should we, Christopher, do you want to push into what makes up a story that sizzles? Like, I could kind of break that down a little bit. I did kind of tease with that a little bit, the 5 key elements, but would you like to take the dialogue there?
Yeah, definitely. Go ahead and elaborate on that.
Yeah, so just, to come up with a story that sizzles, there's 5 key components that make that up. And, so you start with the target buyer. Who are we building the story or narrative around? What are their cares and concerns? We really got to land there. One time, a buddy of mine who was trying to sell, this language platform to learn English to people in China, he called me up and I'm like going, hey man, who are you selling to? And he talked about, these entities that he was trying to sell this English language platform to. But then I was asking him, hey man, what's the problem you're solving for them? And then he quickly went to, well, we're trying to solve the problem of confidence or lack of confidence. These Chinese students don't have confidence. And that's why our language platform is so valuable, to give these Chinese students confidence. And then I was asking him, do the students buy the platform? And he's like going, no, they don't. And I go, well, who does? And he goes, well, the owners of these, language institutions, these educational institutions, they buy our language platform. And they're looking for confidence? He goes, no. They're trying to increase their enrollment. I go, well, then why aren't we talking about confidence? Let's, who's the target buyer? Who's the target audience? What's the problem we're solving for them? And then land it there. So again, it starts with the target buyer. You got to understand that to build a story. And then what's their key problem? That's the second component of the second element of a story that sizzles. What's the problem we're solving for? And then from there, you want to move on to the outcome. Hey, what's life at the beach look like? If we work together, what's the promise? What's that envisioned outcome that we both can make happen? And so that's the third element, the outcome, the desired outcome. The fourth element is the solution, the entree to the how. How do we get there? So that's the fourth element. And then the fifth element is next steps. Most
Mhm.
sellers, when they're trying to sell something to a buyer, Christopher, they typically leave next steps to chance. There's a lot of good dialogue going back and forth, and then the seller, asks, "Hey, we're almost out of time. What do you think are next steps?" And the buyer very often says, "Hey, I'll think about it for a while, and I'll get back to you." Or they might say, "Hey, why don't you send us some more information? Then we'll ponder that." And then even worse, Christopher, the buyer might say, "Hey, send me a proposal and we'll consider it." So the seller does a bunch of work, and it goes nowhere. And typically the next steps is where you really prescribe, "Hey, we're going to do A, we're going to do B, we're going to do C, and then if it all makes sense, then we can do a proposal and we'll get going." Does that make sense?
Yeah. And what do you see that's most often missing as it relates to go-to-market narratives?
What's most often missing? Well, I just talked about the next steps, which is a key missing component. But I would also say the problem and the outcome. Normally, what I experience with sellers is they show up and talk about the solution first, solution centric. "Hey, Christopher, let me tell you about me. And I'll tell you more about me, and I'll tell you more about me. Did you want to still know more? Here's what it looks like." And features, functions, benefits. It's an all about me type of conversation. And what's missing is starting with that problem domain. And really anchoring with the customer. What's the problem we're solving for? That's missing. And then the desired outcome. What do we want to achieve? Those are critical missing components. And then the next steps, as we'd already discussed.
Yeah, really interesting. And one thing that's been on my mind is this idea of artificial intelligence. And how do you leverage artificial intelligence and other tools and approaches for developing a go-to-market narrative that sizzles?
Oh, cool. Great question. Wow. And very timely question, Christopher. So AI, it's absolutely amazing so far. And of course, every day it's just getting better and better. But what used to take me a very long time. So you talked about in the beginning of our dialogue about standing apart from the pack, and the pack is just growing, growing, growing. Very often when I start an initiative with a client, we'll look at all the different direct and indirect competitors and figure out, what are they saying? What's their story? And of course, we don't want to be trapped in the sea of sameness. We need to stand apart with a different sounding and looking story. So what are they saying? What are they showing? We do a big scan. AI shrinks that. So instead of going website by website by website and doing all that, rough research and even knowing who to look at in the first place, with AI, we can say, "Hey, here's a domain. Who's all the different competitors in this domain?" And then we can even feed, AI, the literal domain, the website domain, and say, "Hey, summarize what's the story they're telling. What are the messages they have?" Get all that data. And then even, with the direct competitors, I was working with a large organization just recently that was competing with Microsoft. We would say, "Hey, in this particular solution domain, why would a customer choose Microsoft over my client? And then also in this solution domain, why would a potential customer choose my client over Microsoft?" And so we're looking for strengths and weaknesses through that process, and how to position against the competitive alternatives. And we can do that competitor by competitor by competitor. Asking AI, these generative AI tools, Bard, ChatGPT, et cetera, for answers of that nature, and questioning them. Hey, how would we position ourselves to stand apart from the pack? Once you get all that data, then you can go into creation mode, and that's human plus machine to come up with great ideas around the problem we're solving, the outcome we're promising, the solution, how to characterize that. We can start to build that together as part of that narrative structure, and then afterwards we can, of course, you can use AI to sharpen it, get all turned, make it sound a little bit more sexy, et cetera, sassy. but then go test it with the target buyer and see how it lands. So it's kind of a transhuman process, leveraging technology and the humans involved in crafting the story, and even involved in delivering the story, the top sellers, the top partners, the top analysts, getting all their involvement as we put this overall go-to-market narrative together.
Yeah, very interesting. Where can people go to find you, follow you, check out your book, and contact you?
Yeah, so thank you, Christopher. My website is inspired by me and a team. So within there, that we've got way more resources about how to go about doing this, how to the importance of, and how to have a go-to-market story that sizzles. Also, if you go to inspireyourbuyers.com, that's where people can grab a copy of the book, enjoy that. We've got a really rich introduction that does a lot more explanation than what we covered, and that's a free download that they can have just to get into the game. And if they want to just go straight away and buy the book, it's on Amazon, both in hardcover, paperback, Kindle, and also Audible versions of that.
Excellent. And for the audience out there, let's thank Bruce for coming onto the show. Really, all of his resources will be in the links and show notes. And with that, thanks so much for coming onto the podcast.
Thank you, Christopher. Much appreciated.
I hope you really enjoyed that wonderful, inspirational, motivational piece. Again, wherever you are listening, if you liked it, be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe. We're on everywhere: Spotify, iTunes, Google, Amazon, Audible. And without much ado, be sure to thank this show's sponsors, and we'll see you next week.